What's your young man's name right beside you?
Hugh.
How much time he spent with you this morning? Teaching you all this stuff?
You'll be so more. Good answer. That's
I'm a quick study. He's gotten you in early and catching you up.
trying to learn to.
Of what this? Yeah. Which one is
Phillips, what was your first name? Angelina. Okay.
You got it, Brian? I can give him one. Yeah, 44.
Got it. Okay, Dr. Phillips, if you would tell the judge about yourself and your qualifications to have performed this autopsy in the case here.
Okay. So I have completed my undergraduate education in anthropology from New York University. I have a graduate degree in human nutrition from Columbia University in New York, 4 years of medical school upstate New York, and then 4 years of anatomic and clinical pathology training before one final year of forensic pathology training here at MUSC in Charleston, and that's where I stayed on and worked for the last 10 years.
You got warm weather and stay.
That's why I stayed.
I figured you out.
We would offer her as an expert in the field of pathology.
Any more dire to the witness being qualified, an expert for the purposes here?
Yeah.
All right, she's so qualified.
Okay. Dr. Phillips, did you perform an autopsy on the person of Scott Spivey that was the subject that is the deceased in this case?
Yes.
All right. And when did you do that?
That was in September of 2023.
Okay. And you did this in your capacity as an examiner for the Medical University of South Carolina, correct?
Correct.
All right. And if you would explain to the court, we don't have a jury in this case, it's just the judge here. If you would explain to the judge what you did and what you found.
Okay. So the basics of the autopsy is an external and internal examination of the body for the purposes of determining the cause and manner of death. In this case, the cause of death was deemed a gunshot wound to the right side of the back. He also had a second gunshot wound, which was a grazed gunshot wound on the left cheek, and there were some minor injuries on his legs.
Okay, and let me ask you this. When did you actually perform the autopsy?
The specific date of the autopsy is the 12th of September, 2023.
All right. And what time of day would we be talking about?
That would be in the morning. I don't recall the specific time.
Okay. And did you establish the cause of death?
Yes.
Tell the court what the cause of death was.
I determined the cause of death to be the gunshot wound to the right side of his back.
Okay. And the other injuries that you noted were not fatal in any nature.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So we're talking about one gunshot wound to the right side of the back.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. In terms of where the gunshot wound entered the body, was there anything unusual about the gunshot entry wound itself?
The gunshot entry wound is slightly irregular. It has the usual features of an entrance wound, an abrasion or a scrape margin along it. The edges of the wound, where the bullet goes in and creates a scrape or an abrasion on the outer surface of the skin, there was no soot, there was no stippling. The location of the gunshot wound is on the right side of the back near the axillary region or the axillary crease, where your axillary crease is basically your armpit and the crease behind your arm.
And You describe that as the ancillary region?
Axillary. AX.
Axillary. You spell it for the court reporter?
AXILLARY.
And that would be under the armpit area?
Yes, the axillary region is that armpit region, and when I say axillary crease, it's the crease that forms on the back and front of the arm when your arm is down.
Hey, waiter, here, come here. If you would, how about use this young man as a model, and if you would show the judge as we get a little closer, where she not want to come down. I don't know. Will you ask her?
Y'all love free movement.
Okay.
Okay. So on the right side of his back, the axillary crease would be where the line or seam of his jacket is, right here. Armpit region, obviously armpit. And the gunshot wound was in this region here. So that muscle fat area that is just behind where the armpit crease is.
And that is the ancillary area of the body?
Axillary.
Axillary, I'm sorry. Now, again, if you would describe to the judge the path of the bullet through the body.
So the bullet enters here on the right side towards the armpit region and travels through the body towards the front. And I pulled part of the bullet out from underneath the pectoral muscles, which is on the chest here. And another part of the bullet remained in the chest cavity on the right and was on the diaphragm, which is the muscle that sits below your lungs. So it separated once it got inside of the body. One part continued to the left side of the chest, and one part stayed in the right side of the chest.
All right, and if you use this rod that I have here, the bullet would have traveled through their body from right to left?
So it would have been right to left and front to back with a very slight upward trajectory.
You said front to back.
Sorry, back to front.
Thank you.
Correct.
All right, and again, there was no bullet that entered directly in the back and came out the front side.
Correct. It did not go directly in the middle of the back, and the trajectory was not straight forward. It was across the body.
So would I be fair to say, instead of, though there was an angle to it, the bullet traveled through the body from the right side to the left side?
Yes, it did.
Moving ever so slightly forward as it traveled that way?
It moved forward in comparison to where it entered the body towards the back.
Okay. And was the bullet wound that you found consistent with having struck the body of the deceased while the right arm was in an upward position?
That is one position that he could have been in to expose that area for the gunshot wound to enter where it did and travel across the body in that trajectory.
And if the arm had been down and in a backwards position of any way, the bullet would have entered, could have entered, would have entered, or struck the tricep as well as the back area where it entered into.
There we go. If his arm is down in this position, the gunshot wound enters here. This muscle would be in the pathway of the bullet and would have likely gotten injured. So the arm probably had to be up or somewhere over to expose this area.
And if the arm had been in this position with a pistol in the hand, and somebody was making that turn, is that consistent with the bullet having entered the body in that way?
Yes, that would be consistent in that this area would be exposed if the projectile is coming from this direction going across the body.
Okay, thank you. If you would have a seat. Let me show you what has been marked as exhibit number 44A. And Judge, we're not going to put these on the screen because they may be somewhat graphic. Tell the judge what that's a photograph of and hand it up to him.
This is a photograph of the left side of Mr. Spivey's face taken at the time of autopsy, showing the grazed gunshot wound.
All right, and show you Exhibit 44B, describe to the judge what that is and pass it to him.
So this is also a photo taken at the time of autopsy, showing the body laying on its left side, exposing the area for the gunshot wound so that I can photograph it and show the general location. The arm is pulled upward and forward, so it may create a bit of an artifact or change that wasn't necessarily there when the body was positioned as if he was alive.
All right, and let me show you defense exhibit number 42A and ask you if that depicts the gunshot wound.
This is a picture of the body at the scene as it was found, and we can see the gunshot wound in its location on the right side of his back near the armpit region.
Now, as part of the autopsy report itself, how do you do a toxicology test?
Yes, all of our forensic cases, we will draw samples to submit for toxicology, and that was done in this case.
All right, and do you test do the toxicology test at MUSC, or you forward it to the National Medical Science Laboratories?
In this case, it was submitted to NMS, or National Medical Sciences Laboratories. That's where all of the forensic toxicology testing was performed.
And did they report back to you what their findings were?
Yes, they did submit the report back to us. I did not include it in my autopsy report because the report was completed before those results were available.
All right. Do you know what the toxicology reports in this case were?
Yes, I have a copy of it with me.
Yep, share that with the court.
In this case, his toxicology revealed ethanol or alcohol in the blood, and that's blood collected from his heart. There was also caffeine in the heart blood. We submitted urine for testing. It was tested for testosterone, creatinine, and ethanol was also tested in the vitreous fluid, which is fluid from the eyes.
All right. Exhibit 46 is the autopsy report. Does it have the toxicology?
This is the toxicology.
All right. Is it in the evidence?
Not yet.
Not yet. Can you pull up the toxicology report? Exhibit 46, Judge, is the toxicology report associated with this autopsy.
Which is the one looking at now?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. And that if you would go over that with the judge again, Dr. Phillips, blood alcohol concentration is what?
So the blood alcohol concentration is 0.130, and that is just another way of stating the blood ethanol up at the top,
Yep.
which is 130. It's giving it in a percentage, and that's what people commonly hear when they hear about blood alcohol testing. They hear about the BAC, or the blood alcohol concentration. So that's a percentage of the alcohol in the blood at the time of testing.
And that, in a common vernacular, 13?
Yes.
All right. And your field study prepare you to testify about that effects on the body, potentially, of that type of blood alcohol concentration?
Yes, I can give you a general description of what that blood alcohol concentration would do to a person, but I could not tell you what the effects were on Mr. Spivey.
And the general effects you would expect would be what?
As your blood alcohol content increases, especially up to a 0.13, you start to lose the higher executive function, and you can be disoriented, you can be sleepy, you can be aggressive. There's multiple different reactions that people have to alcohol. But commonly we just think of it as a disorientation or eventual loss of consciousness as it gets higher and higher.
And I noticed an anabolic steroid screen with the urine.
Yes.
And do you know what findings of the toxicology report said about that?
That is referring to the testosterone in the urine, and that is one of the steroids that we can identify in urine. And it is a hormone that is naturally in the body for men, and it is sometimes used by bodybuilders and other people to help build muscle.
In your findings of the gross anatomy and your examination of the body itself, did you find anything unusual at all related to the arteries of this young man and any diseases of the body itself?
I would have to refer back to my report, and I can tell you that in his cardiovascular system, his heart weighed 340 grams, which is within a normal range for someone his age and size. His coronary arteries, although they were patent, meaning there was space for blood to flow through them, did have a moderate degree of atherosclerosis or cholesterol plaque buildup in one coronary artery. That is the left anterior descending coronary artery. It's a blood vessel that runs on the front of your heart, and 50% of the lumen of that vessel was narrowed, meaning of the circle for that vessel, half of it was plugged up by cholesterol plaque.
Is that abnormal in any way and how old was Mr. Spivey at the time of autopsy?
I believe he was 33 years old, and it depends on his lifestyle, his diet, a number of things, but it is not entirely unusual for us to see cholesterol plaque buildup in coronary arteries of some patients.
And I know you're not a toxicologist, but as a pathologist, does that indicate to you the possibility of steroid use in the past?
It does not.
Okay.
Now, I can't see that.
I'm sorry.
It
She
does
said
not.
it does not to her. All right, and
Does not.
I'm sorry, it does not what?
If the use of the testosterone does not
Indicate.
indicate for the snaring of that artery.
Okay. Thank you.
all right, and let me go back, if I could, with you and ask you on page 9 of your autopsy report, if you would describe for the record the location of the gunshot wound.
Page 9.
Page 9.
I only have
You
7
don't see
pages
that?
of my autopsy
Okay.
report.
Evidence of injury. Do you have that portion of the autopsy report there with you? I'm talking about this.
I think that is the total pages of everything together.
Yeah.
In the evidence of injury, for me, it's on page 3 of 7
Okay.
of the autopsy report.
Yes, and what does that show?
The gunshot wound to the back is located specifically at 9 inches to the right of midline and 6 inches below the top of the shoulder, and that is right side of the back near the axillary region.
Okay, and if you would turn to the portion that relates to the cheek wound there, and clarify, was the wound to the cheek from front to back?
The wound to the cheek had some features that led me to believe that it could have been from front to back. And I said apparent trajectory because I wasn't very sure that that was the trajectory.
That's the way you reported in the report, is from front to back, correct?
Right, apparently from front to back.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Mr. Moss?
None, Your Honor. I proxy them.
Okay, very good. All right, Mr. Tinsley.
So, I just want to be clear. Can I borrow your stick more?
Yeah.
Your report says, on page 7, you had up there, gunshot wound to the back, right?
Yes.
And I don't mean to be crass or insensitive, and I apologize. But I'm a hunter, okay? And so, how about take this stick and put it the best approximation of where that bullet ended up in his left pectoral muscle.
Gotcha. So it would be described under the evidence of injury, gunshot wound to the back, which is the second paragraph down. Recovered projectile consists of copper-colored jacketing, and that is recovered from the right hemidiaphragm. And then the gray metal partially flattened bullet is recovered from a hematoma in the left pectoral muscles. So your chest muscle attaches on the top here, comes down across, that's your pectoral. It's in a hematoma or a big blood clot collection inside of that muscle.
About here.
Yes.
All right, now, I want you to step down here. And if the judge is the shooter, he has to, you have to line up where the bullet enters to where it doesn't exit, but where it's going, right?
Correct.
So turn me so that the judge is shooting me.
You have to be facing him this way, but you're towards the back of the right side of his body, because the gun would have to be pointed at this area for that bullet to enter, and it enters right along here, because his armpit, I'm sorry,
Okay? You go.
is right here. It would be on this part of his back, so it goes in that way, across towards the right side.
Yeah, but I want you to
left
get
side of his
behind me
body.
and I want you to line that hole up with this so that we see.
Can I use the stick?
Yes, ma'am. No, I want to. So if we were imagining the bullet's going to exit my chest, okay? We know it doesn't. It stops under the skin, correct?
Correct.
At least, so the lead center separates from the jacket. The jacket goes into the diaphragm or ends up in the diaphragm.
Correct, on the right side.
And then the center part, the lead continues and it ends up in a collection
Of blood in the left pectoral muscle.
Okay, and we placed it here, and so now what I want you to do is if you were going to put the bullet through me, run the bullet through me, I want you to line it up so that from the judge's perspective, the bullet goes in a straight line, right?
Relatively speaking,
Okay,
yes.
so line me up to the judge.
You'd be at this angle.
Okay. You can have a seat, thank you. The judge is going to hear a fair amount of testimony that Mr. Boyd says that he saw Scott Spivey's shirt wrinkle or crinkle, or words to that effect, when he was shot. Based on your examination, that was the only wound that would have been indicated by a crinkle or wrinkle of the shirt. Fair?
I think so, yes.
Okay. I mean, if he had the shirt tied up over his head, it would have. But other than that would be the only time he could have seen that, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And do you have an opinion in terms of whether or not the I'm going to say, care of this body before the blood sample is collected, because there is testimony that the body was left in the car, was towed from the scene in the car, it remained in his truck in hot temperatures for a long time. Whether or not that makes the blood test or affects the blood test in terms of alcohol.
The alcohol level does get affected by the time frame between when the person died and when we collect it. However, I don't think that it is a significant level of change in this case, and I wouldn't comment further on it because it doesn't necessarily reflect on the cause of death, which is the purpose of my autopsy.
That's right. And the cause of death is he bled to death, correct?
That is the immediate cause of death. The mechanism of how he died is blood loss.
Okay. And if you can, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of certainty about how long Mr. Spivey would have lived with that wound?
With the injuries that he had from that chest wound, injuring all of the organs in his chest, it affected the large vessels coming off of his heart, both lungs. It can be anywhere from seconds upward of a minute or more until the blood pumps out and fills the cavities.
And if we go back to, we don't have the toxicology screen where, let me just hand you mine. We don't need to go back, but it says there in the center, and this is Defendant's Exhibit 46, testing requested, correct?
Yes.
And that was requested by Horry County PD, correct?
The testing panel that we did, the post-mortem expanded blood, that's our standard request. The anabolic steroids screen and alcohol panel specifically on fluid, those were specifically requested by the coroner's office to be performed.
Of Horry County?
Yes.
Okay. And just so the court's clear, there were at least, we deposed Mr. Bauer, the toxicologist from the labs, there were at least 27 different ways that they checked for anabolic steroids and none were found, correct?
I can only tell you what the report tells me.
And it tells you none were found, correct?
It tells me there was testosterone there, but I can't say if it was what's normally in the body or something that was administered.
And in terms of the cardiovascular disease that you found in Mr. Spivey's heart, that would not be inconsistent with a person with a severe family history of heart disease, would it?
It could be consistent with family history of heart disease, poor diet, poor lifestyle, a number of things.
To try to say that that was a result of a specific anabolic steroid use would be speculative in your opinion, correct?
For me, yes.
But you're the one that saw it, right?
I can't tell you that the specific anabolic steroid caused it, so I would be speculating.
And you're the one who actually saw his heart?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor.
One question, clarification. In terms of after that wound was sustained, it eventually was fatal. I think you and I had to talk about the fact that in this instance, if the deceased was shot outside the truck, he would or could have had the ability to get back into the truck and continue to shoot his gun for some limited period of time.
There is potentially a period of time where he could have done that. I wouldn't be able to say that that happened because I wasn't there, and I can only tell you what I saw at the autopsy.
Right. But the injury that you saw would have allowed that, would have allowed time for it.
Yes, it's possible that he would have had time for that.
All right. That's all I have.
Ready? All right, you're done. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
And now, Judge, we will release Dr. Phillips. And we would offer the deposition of toxicologist Justin Brower, B-R-O-W-E-R. Judge, this is a video deposition that was
Now on the
taken
record.
just last week. Dr. Justin Brower, he is the toxicologist that did the testing on this case for National Medical Science Laboratories.
Time on the monitor is 10:10 a.m. Today's date is February 12th, 2026. It's a video recorded deposition of Dr. Justin Brower in the matter of Jennifer Spivey Foley as personal representative of the state of Scott Ryan Spivey versus Charles Weldon Boyd and Kenneth Williams. This deposition is being conducted remotely through Zoom. Counsel, please introduce yourselves, after which our court reporter will administer the oath.
Natasha Hanna. I represent the estate of Scott Spivey along with Mark Tinsley.
Morgan Martin and O'Brien Martin, we represent Bradley Williams.
This is Kenneth Moss, I represent Charles Weldon Boyd.
Okay. Dr. Brower, if you raise your right hand to be sworn, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Brower. We briefly met moments ago. My name is Natasha Hanna, and I, along with Mark Tinsley, represent the estate of Scott Spivey in a case where he was shot and killed. I wanted to know a little bit about you. Can you tell me your name, title, and your position at NMS Labs, please?
This is Dr. Justin Orion Brower, B-R-O-W-E-R. I am a forensic toxicologist with NMS Laboratories.
And it's my understanding, Dr. Brower, that you kind of worked your way up the ladder as far as being a forensic toxicologist. And you have, it looks like, more than 17 years of experience?
Correct.
Okay, and I believe you started out as a laboratory supervisor for the North Carolina Office of Chief Medical Examiner, and then worked your way up to Associate Chief Toxicologist. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and you actually have a lot of experience in the very reason why we're here today, which is certifying postmortem drug and alcohol toxicology reports and even developing LC-MS-MS confirmation methods. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and now you served as a forensic toxicologist for NMS Labs for about 4 years, it looks like?
About 3.5, correct.
3.5, okay, great. Dr. Brower, as a forensic toxicologist, the work that you do is actually very important. Sometimes you answer questions that other people can't. Is that right?
Correct.
And even more so, it's important in the sense that you can answer questions and even provide families some closure.
That is correct.
All right, at this time, I'd like to offer Dr. Justin Brower as an expert witness in the field of forensic toxicology.
No objection.
No objection.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Brower, do you have your the 3 reports that were produced in this case in front of you?
I do.
And it's my understanding you provided a pretty substantial litigation support package from NMS Labs, but what we're going to be talking about today is the toxicology report that I believe encompasses about the first 13, 14 pages of that document.
Correct. I just have the toxicology reports pulled up because that's really the most relevant document for today.
I agree. All right. So it looks like there are 3 reports that were done on September 27th, 2023, October 10th, 2023, and October 24th, 2023. Is that right?
Correct.
And the 2 reports that you signed were October 10th and October 24th, 2023.
Let me just confirm that. Correct. The initial, the first report was reviewed and certified by William Schroeder, and then the case was, I believe, transferred to me because he was unavailable for testimony, and then there was additional testing added, which generated the 3rd report. So that is correct.
And William Schroeder, is he a colleague at NMS Labs?
He is correct. He's a colleague of forensic toxicologist.
Okay. Were there any quality concerns or disagreement about the findings between the first report that he did and the second one that you did?
No, the reports are identical. If a case has to be reassigned to another forensic toxicologist, we review it just like we do any other case, as if we've never seen it before, because obviously we haven't seen it before, so we review it exactly the same way. There's no need to discuss anything with the other forensic toxicologist because We're just reviewing the data, making sure everything is correct and accurate. We're not coming up with any opinions or anything like that when we certify the report.
All right, and so you... Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We need to go off the record a moment we can, but quickly, he referenced a 14-page toxicology report, if I heard him correctly. I don't think, a 14-page toxicology report. I have the 3 to 4 pages that were attached to the autopsy. Is there something else?
Yeah, let's go off the record for a second, if we can, please.
The time on the monitor is 10:18 a.m. and we're back on record.
Dr. Barber, it's my understanding when you sign a report for a case, you're personally reviewing the analytical data before signing and you're certifying the results are accurate, right?
That is correct.
So let's look at, and I'm going to isolate questions to the 2 reports that you did, which was October 10th of 2023 and October 24th of 2023. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. So it looks like your October 10th of 2023 report shows 3 specimens were collected: heart blood, urine, and vitreous fluid that were all collected on September 12th of 2023. Is that right?
Not exactly.
Okay, tell me that.
On the first report that is certified by me, we had 2 specimens, the heart, blood, and urine. And then for the third toxicology report that was issued on 10/24, that is when we have the vitreous fluid that was then sent to us for additional.
Okay.
So really, if you want to just keep it very simple, all we have to really do is discuss the final report, because that has all of the specimens and all of the testing. We don't have to bounce between reports.
Okay, I like that. So, but I guess the point I was making that all 3 of those specimens were actually collected on September 12th of 2023, regardless of when you actually did the testing, right?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, that's what we have.
Okay, and on your report, both reports on page 1, it shows collection date and time, September 12th, right?
Correct.
Okay, and are you aware that Mr. Spivey died on September 9th of 2023 at approximately 5:58 p.m.?
No.
So the specimens weren't collected until about 63 hours after death, according to the report and the collection times, right?
I'll trust your math on that one.
Okay. And does that 63-hour delay raise any concerns to you as a forensic toxicologist?
It is a longer postmortem interval. The postmortem interval is the time between death and the time of specimen collection, typically at autopsy. Usually you like to try to get an autopsy as quickly as possible. It's not of a great concern here, just due to the nature of the drugs that were not found. It can play a role in certain drugs due to postmortem redistribution, but since there was very few drugs detected, namely we just detected ethanol and testosterone and no other illicit or prescription drugs, it's not a great factor, unless you were to tell me that the body was markedly decomposed. But due to the nature of the death, I would imagine that the person wasn't laying around decomposing outside for that 63 hours, so they made their way to the coroner's office or autopsy facility for proper storage.
Okay. So I understand you were not aware that there was a 63-hour window of time between death and the time it was collected. Were you told that the body sat in a vehicle for about 5 hours in September heat before it was actually transported?
Was I told that?
Yes, sir.
No, I know absolutely nothing about this case.
Okay. Would that information be relevant to you as far as being able to do this toxicology report, that a body sat in a vehicle for 5 hours after death, and then blood wasn't taken for 63 hours after that?
It's not a great concern. Most bodies aren't initially collected and transported, immediately after death. A lot of deaths are unattended and unwitnessed. So it's fairly standard that, bodies may be laying around for hours in a home or a mobile home or outside or in a vehicle, prior to being found and transported to the proper facility.
Okay, I understand that, but it's interesting that you note in your comments on page 2 that you say that ethanol can also be a product of decomposition or degradation of biological samples. So if a body were sitting outside, whether it's standard or not, it could be, it could alter the test results, couldn't it?
To a small degree, there is post-mortem production, or post-mortem production of ethanol is possible. It's typically in cases where there are some marked decomposition, or they're found outside. We often see it when they're like in drowning cases, and they're in like ponds and dirty, brackish waters. Typically, though, that post-mortem production is fairly low, typically less than 20 milligrams per deciliter.
So let's talk about one of the first specimens you received and tested, which is the heart blood. In forensic toxicology, is there a preferred type of blood for post-mortem analysis?
We prefer a peripheral specimen. Heart blood is what we would call a central specimen because it's central to the body cavity in and around the heart. We generally prefer testing or at least drug confirmation on peripheral specimens. That would be like in iliac, which runs up and down the groin, or the femoral up and down the leg. And that is solely just to reduce the occurrence of post-mortem redistribution, which could artificially elevate concentrations greater than what they were at the time of death.
So heart blood is a less reliable form as opposed to peripheral or femoral blood?
I wouldn't say less reliable. As far as screening goes, if anything, the concentrations would be greater in the heart blood and more detectable in the heart blood than in the peripheral. The concern comes with the quantitation or concentrations found in those central blood specimens, such as the heart, where certain drugs that are prone to postmortem redistribution could be higher than what they would be at the time of death. But since there were no drugs that are prone to postmortem redistribution, such as SSRIs and antidepressants and drugs like methadone or hydroxychloroquine, it's not really a concern in this case.
Well, isn't it a concern that relates to the testing of ethanol?
No.
Okay, tell me why.
Ethanol distributes fairly evenly throughout the body, whether it's in central blood or peripheral blood, it really doesn't matter.
Okay. Now, did you receive any peripheral blood in this case?
We did not, no.
Okay, so you had to rely on whatever Horry County took as far as specimens and samples to send to you?
Correct.
Okay. Now, the heart blood ethanol was 130 milligrams per deciliters, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Which equals a VAC of 0.13.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Based on what you now know as far as a body sitting in a hot car for 5 hours and the specimen not being taken for 63 hours after death, does that give you any concern as far as the reliability of the heart blood and the VAC?
Not to a great degree, no. Like I said, it's possible there could have been some post-mortem production. If it did occur, it would be low and fairly negligible compared to the 130. We also have the alcohol in the vitreous fluid, which matches fairly closely to that of the blood. Usually the vitreous fluid ethanol lags behind that of blood. It just takes a little bit longer for the ethanol to diffuse into the vitreous fluid in the eyeball. So it's generally lower than that of the blood. But because they're approximately the same, I have no concern about the concentration of the ethanol in the heart blood.
Well, as a forensic toxicologist, isn't it true that you use a ratio of 1.15 to 1 when you convert that?
No.
Okay, tell me what ratio you use.
I don't use any ratio. I don't really know what you're talking about.
Are you able to convert vitreous blood fluid to a VAC content?
No. That's not something that is done.
You just typically don't do it or aren't asked to do it?
It's not something that is done.
Okay. All right, so tell me about...
That's not something that toxicologists do.
I understand.
Or good toxicologists do. You might be able to find someone that do that for you, but it would not be proper.
Okay. After death, isn't it true that alcohol can move from the stomach into the heart blood?
It can typically when there's blunt force trauma. So if, like, say, a car crash or someone jumps off of a building or someone, say, is stabbed or shot in the stomach and the gastric contents are ruptured, then yeah, you can have spillage or leakage and diffusion of any alcohol that could be in the gastric contents into that central cavity, and that can impact the alcohol concentrations of any collected central blood specimens, such as from the heart or the aorta. And that is one of the reasons why we, in cases like that, we like to test an alternate protected specimen, such as the vitreous fluid in the eye.
So in this case,
You can speak loud, we're muted.
So can bacteria in a decomposing body actually produce ethanol on its own?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I was coughing at the time.
That's okay. So it's my understanding that bacteria in a decomposing body actually produces ethanol on its own, and heat can even speed up that process.
It can. Bacteria, yeast, other microorganisms, yes, they can all, it's all possible that they can create the post-mortem production of ethanol.
Okay, but you weren't provided any of this information when you did your testing?
No.
Okay, also, Dr. Brower, you also were provided with urine and to test on that, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and it's my understanding the testosterone level in the urine was 4.1 mg per milliliter, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and 4.1 is a long way from 200. And does that suggest steroid use?
4 is a lot less than 200, I'll agree with that.
Okay.
I don't know what you're getting at, though.
I apologize, I didn't ask that question very clearly, that's my fault. So it's my understanding you didn't find any anabolic steroids when you tested Scott Spivey's specimens, correct?
That is correct. We only detected testosterone.
Okay, and what does it mean by the levels that you found as far as the testosterone in the urine was 4.1?
To me, that's fairly low in urine for men. Typically, we might see concentrations, greater than, I don't know what our reference comments says. I don't want to. You see wide ranges of testosterone in men, from, like, say, typically 150 up into 1,000 or so, and 4 is fairly low. It's actually very close to our reporting limit for testosterone, which is 2 in this case. So it's very low for some reason.
Okay, and my question, which was a poor one previously, so I apologize for that, but in your notes that you mentioned in paragraph 5, you indicated that WADA recommends further testing when testosterone exceeds 200. So my question to you, 4.1 is a long way from 200, so that does not suggest any kind of steroid use from that test, right?
Possibly. There's some other factors to consider it as well, which you'll probably get into, I imagine.
Yeah, so also in your specific testing, whether you could find steroids, and let me back up. Why did you test for the drugs that you tested for in this particular case?
We were asked to by the client.
Okay, and who was the client in this particular case?
Back at the MUSC, Medical University of South Carolina, was the submitting agency.
Okay, do you have any knowledge about why they asked you to look for anabolic steroids or the other things they requested?
No.
All right, so it's my understanding that NMS Labs ran a specific anabolic steroid screen on the urine. How many steroids did that screen test for?
Give me just a sec. If I counted correctly, it's 27, approximately.
Okay, and you're referencing the last page of your report where under test 9306U antibiotic steroid screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good, thanks. Now, did that screen include anabolic steroids, and were any metabolites detected?
No, just the testosterone.
So no steroids at all from the 27 tests that you ran could be found.
It's not 27 tests. It was one test that encapsulates all of those. So correct, we did not detect any other of those steroids besides testosterone in the testing that we did.
Thank you for that clarification.
We'll take a break.
And NMSF.
Yes, sir.
Who's running it?
Not me.
Anybody else hot in here?
Yes.
All right, let's take a break. I need to walk around a little bit. I'm very hot. I may have to take my robe off, but let's get the courtroom a little bit cooler. I don't know why it's hot, warmer this afternoon, but it's just warm in here to me. So take about 15 minutes and we'll come back and get through this. I'm not sure I gave a deadline on the break, so I'll let the lawyers who were scattered come on in. That was kind of a dirty trick, wasn't it?
Yeah, lock the door, Judge.
Maybe we can get more done.
I missed my chance to scatter.
John, you should have left when you had a chance.
Crank back up with deposition here.
Yeah, I see your cameraman coming in. I decided to go without the road till the courtroom cools off a little bit.
Labs also recommend blood panel testing for amphetamines, antidepressants, benzos, cannabinoids, cocaine, opioids, and many other drug classes, didn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And absolutely none were found, correct?
Correct. The only thing we detected was caffeine, which is reported as presumptive positive. So it was not confirmed.
Right. So, Dr. Brower, is there anything in your results that supports the conclusion that Mr. Spivey had anabolic steroids in his system when he died?
We did not detect any anabolic steroids.
Okay, is there anything that you found that would support behavioral changes from steroid use?
I can't talk about behavior from just a toxicology report alone.
Okay, so anything that you saw, would it indicate chronic steroid abuse?
No, I can't determine that from just a toxicology report or testing.
Very good. Okay, let's go off the record for just one quick second, please.
Okay, please stand by. The time on the monitor is 10:34 a.m. Going off the record.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I'll say.
Please stand by. The time on the monitor is 10:36 a.m. and we're back on record.
Okay, Dr. Brower, that's all the questions I have for you at this time. I'm going to turn it over to the defense attorneys for any questions that they may have for you. Thanks.
Go first, or you want me to?
You're welcome to.
Okay. Dr. Brower, my name is Morgan Martin, and as noted earlier, I represent Bradley Williams and have certainly listened to your testimony and read your report. Just a couple of questions for you. While you testified, I still can confirm that you received the samples that you tested from the Medical University of South Carolina.
Yes.
For testing. And you do a lot of testing for MUSC?
We do a fair amount, correct.
All right. And in the world of toxicology testing of blood, urine, and vitreous humor taken from an individual at autopsy, anything unusual about this case to your knowledge?
Nothing unusual about the specimen submitted.
All right, let me give you a little background so that if any of this impacts your thinking, you can let us know.
Okay.
The deceased in this case had been in a bar from about 12 o'clock to about 5 o'clock this Saturday afternoon. His bar tab indicates that he bought some 12 to 14 drinks. A combination of beer and fireball shots. There's no indication that he drank all of those. There's an indication he didn't drink it all. but it's clear his bar tab had, again, at least 12 different alcoholic drinks on it. He was there from 1 to 5. He was drinking. And then, as Natasha said, he died about 5:58 or 6 o'clock that afternoon. And he was brought to the Horry County Police Department. There was some crime scene work done, and the coroner took control of him with care about 11 or 12 o'clock. And I think that's where Natasha gets maybe the 5 hours that he was not refrigerated. And then the coroner's office was able to get an autopsy done again on September the 13th at 8:30 in the morning. Would you agree that those time frames are within normal standards and would not be expected to have any appreciable effect on the accuracy of the blood alcohol testing you did?
Yeah, that time frame is fairly standard when conducting autopsies. There's usually a shortage of forensic pathologists. People can't get autopsies right away. So a postmortem interval of 2 days or so is fairly common in the field. As I stated before, that 5 or so hour period of before being taken to a facility for storage is not uncommon either, and its impact on the blood alcohol and the vitreous alcohol concentration is negligible at best.
So you would believe that the 13 blood alcohol content, as we use it in layman's vernacular, is reliable?
Correct.
All right. And you mentioned in your report some of the effects of blood, of alcohol in the blood and its effect on humans. Can you explain to us your thoughts on that with regards to a blood alcohol of 13?
Yeah, the 0.13, to put that into perspective with something that people are familiar with, the so-called legal limit for operating a motor vehicle is 0.08 grams per deciliter. So the 0.13 is, about 1.5 times greater than that. So there was likely some market impairment. They were probably feeling fairly good at the time, but they have impaired judgment, reduced motor function. They might have slurred speech, unsteady gait when walking. So if they were to say do like a field sobriety test, they would most likely fail that according to the drug recognition experts. It's possible they could have memory deficits, slurred speech, if I haven't already said that one. Those are all things that are possible. I can't say that's something that individual was experiencing, though, because I was not there to witness it.
But, and I believe you mentioned this, but where you did, you mentioned judgment could be impaired as a result of the ingestion of this amount of alcohol.
Correct. People often have impaired judgment to make poor decisions under the influence of alcohol.
And I'm assuming it would be correct to say that the time frame that we have, well, let me back up, I'll withdraw that question. As a toxicologist, are you familiar at all with the term steroid rage?
Correct. I don't think you need to be a toxicologist to know the term, the quote, roid rage, but yes, I am familiar with the term.
What is roid rage from your?
I mean, it's generally the myth that people can become, violent and abusive if they use steroids. I don't think it's quite that simple in black and white. Typically, though, people that use steroids might have a lower inhibition to become agitated or irritated. So if a person is, quote, normally, have a short fuse, then if they use steroids, they might have a little shorter fuse. But it's not like you can take a nice calm person and they use steroids and they just turn into like a raving maniac. That's generally what the term roid rage implies. And that's not something that's based in fact.
Okay. But the fact that there were no steroids found in the testing that you did, that would indicate there hadn't been any steroids used in what period of time would that cover?
It would probably depend.
If you can say, I don't know.
It would probably depend upon which steroid we're talking about. They all have different windows of detection, but we had not used any recently. We did not detect any anabolic steroids, and we have fairly low reporting limits, and we did not detect any trace of them.
All right. And do you agree with at least the literature that talks about the fact that the steroid rage is something that can occur over a long period of time and does not require you to be under the current influence of a steroid to occur?
Yeah, I have read that with long-term use and or heavy use of steroids that it could be possible. And again, it's just lowers that threshold for becoming irritated or agitated.
Let me double think just a second.
And I don't ask.
One last question. Based on your prior testimony, then you would say that from the history you have about the body and the collection and the blood being sent to you, that there is no reason to doubt the accuracy of your findings concerning the blood alcohol reading of Mr. Spivey?
That is correct.
He was clearly under the influence, according to your testing, at the time he died.
Correct. That fits with the toxicology testing in the blood, the corresponding vitreous ethanol results, and the history that is provided. It all indicates that he had consumed alcohol.
That's all the questions I have, Dr. Brown. Thank you.
Dr. Brown, my name is Kenneth Moss. I'm going to try to get the camera going here. You got me? And I represent one of the parties in this case.
Sorry.
I'd like to follow with you a little bit about 3 different areas. First, on the alcohol, blood alcohol concentration that you found in the testing, both in the vitreous fluid and in the heart blood samples that were given to your lab. With the levels you found, would you expect the decedent to have demonstrated or perhaps had lower inhibition, lower that alcohol intoxication?
I'm sorry, could you say that again a little bit louder? I'm having problems hearing you.
I'll try. I want to talk a little bit more about the effects. Would you expect this decedent to have had lower inhibitions as a result of the blood alcohol concentration that you found?
It's possible.
Okay. And let me tell you, the line of questioning that I'm asking you is based upon my layman's search of the effects of alcohol concentration at varying levels on the human body. Okay?
Okay.
And I found, I'll be able to show you one of those, and I'm not showing you this because I want you to rely on them. I'm showing you just an example of what my question is based on. So I'm going to share my screen for a moment. I found, just in the internet search, which, we're all experts with the internet, I found a table that would tell you, at least from one university they published, what you might expect to see at various BAC levels. And I see things in here like at this level here is the level that you found in your testing between 0.11 and 0.15. Is that fair?
It is.
And at least on this table, it suggests what you might see is the effects of that blood alcohol concentration. And so my question to you is there a table or something similar to this kind of table that you would rely on, or you would think would be something that's accurate that we could rely upon? Is there a publication?
I'm sure there are many publications that have very similar tables. Just in glancing through this, it's probably not markedly different.
And so this particular table came from the University of Toledo. It refers to gross motor impairment, judgment, and perception severely impaired. Do you think that's reasonable to assume that someone with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.13 would have a judgment and perception severely impaired?
Yeah, and these are things that could occur with individuals. It's not something that would occur in everybody. People have different experiences with alcohol and intolerances and use history. So these are just general guides. So in general, yes, he could have had impaired judgment and control of motor functions and irritability and things like that. But that just needs to be taken into context with observed behavior and witness statements and so forth.
And so if you look at this table, let me ask you, whether it's this table or another table, are the effects of alcohol concentration cumulative? For example, if I look up here at some of the effects experienced at a lower concentration, would I expect to also see those effects in a higher concentration, or are they different?
That's usually kind of the way it works, that you'll have the effects at the lower as well as the higher, and the higher the concentration. So, correct, if you're going to have the, say, impaired judgment at a higher concentration, you'll probably also have some of the effects that you would see listed at the lower concentrations as well.
So if we go back to the lower concentration on this table, it also says judgment and self-control were impaired at the 0.08 to 0.10 level. Okay? What I didn't see in the lower, in the higher concentration, I saw that you might see gross motor impairment. This is motor skills, right? They're impaired at this higher concentration.
Correct.
So if you're in this lower bracket, would you expect to see motor functions inhibited?
You can.
Okay.
And we see that all the time with field sobriety tests when people are just above the 0.08 or the 0.1 where they fail the field sobriety test with the impaired motor function. It's possible to, and again, these are just guides, not gospel at all. So you can have impaired motor function even less than 0.08, and people can be impaired driving at less than 0.08. That's just what our legal system has ruled a so-called legal limit.
Because it's a presumption at the 0.08 level. Is that what
Correct.
you're saying?
Correct.
And at that level, it does, in this table at least, suggest that judgment and self-control are impaired. Do you think that's reasonable to assume that judgment and self-control could be impaired in a BAC of 0.13, such as you found?
It could be. Again, these are just in general, and I can't speak to this particular individual because I was not there to witness any behavior. But yes, people do have poor judgment, even at that type of concentration at 0.08, and we see that every day because people know they shouldn't, say, drive while having drinking alcohol. Yet when they're above 0.08, they do all the time, even though when they're sober, they know better, so their judgment is definitely impaired.
Okay. Let me switch gears a little bit with you and ask you something I saw in your report. All right. If I look the report you provided here, an affidavit of authenticity in this case, and I realize, do you see it? Did it come up in my screen? Doctor, can you see the affidavit of authenticity I provided in front of you?
Correct, yes, I had this notarized yesterday.
And I won't talk to you about the affidavit, but, well, this is your signature, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was notarized in your presence yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. The attached report to this affidavit of authenticity is the report that was last prepared by you on October 24th, is that right?
Correct.
So this is the last of the 3 reports that Attorney Hanna referred to, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I noted in the report, in the lower portion, that you did make the affirmative findings of alcohol or ethanol, caffeine without dosage, and this is in this lower block of findings, right? This area. This is the part of your report where you published the presence of the different substances, is that right?
That's not from NMS Labs. That's coming, I believe, probably from the MUSC. It looks like they have copied and pasted portions of our report to make this document.
Okay. It's this last page that I really want to talk to you about.
Okay.
And is this page from NMS Labs?
This is correct.
Okay. I noticed in here you showed the testosterone level of 4.1. Is that right? Nanograms per milliliter?
Correct.
Okay. And there was a notation down here. And I noticed also in here there was a specific gravity of the urine of 1.005. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I noticed a note down here in this section that refers, can you see the section I'm talking about?
Yes.
What the report seems to say is that the urine sample in here may have needed to be retested. If it said samples with specific gravity lower than 1.01 or 2 dilute and should be recollected. Is that what the note says?
Correct.
Do you concur with that statement?
That's generally the recollection for people that are living. Obviously, you can't really recollect it when they're deceased.
Understood.
But it's indicating that the specific gravity is low, as is the creatinine, which suggests that the specimen could have been diluted, which is something that can occur with living individuals if they're trying to, dilute their urine specimen to, quote, beat a drug test or something like that.
And how would you dilute your urine specimen?
Adding water to it.
Okay. Adding water to the specimen or adding water, consuming water by the individual?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Adding water to the specimen or trying to consume water by the individual? I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
It could have been either, or diuretic use. So there are different ways of, diluting your urine. One could have been adding water after the collection or consuming large amounts of water to, hydrate yourself and dilute your urine that's in the bladder. Or at autopsy, if they irrigated the bladder before collection, that could account for it as well. But both the specific gravity and the creatinine are on the extreme low end of what we would consider normal.
And so, based on both those levels being extremely low, based on what you consider normal, do you believe that you have an accurate analysis for the presence of anabolic steroids, or do you believe that should be retested with a better sample if you can get one?
It's what we were provided, and it's what we test. We do the best with what we were sent. Okay.
But in a medical environment where a living individual is being treated, if you received a sample, and I'm not sure if that's what your lab does, but if a sample was sent to a lab with such a low specific gravity, do you think there would be a request for a retest?
So if it was, say, a living individual and it was for the purposes of drug testing, this would certainly be a, quote, flag for them that something is amiss, and they might want to, recollect another specimen from that individual if possible. But again, this is a post-mortem case, and it's not possible.
Very well. And the last area I want to ask you about was anabolic steroid use of the long terms. Are you aware of anatomical changes that can occur in someone's body with long-term anabolic steroid use?
Not really, no.
Okay, is that within your area of expertise or not something you've studied?
It's not something I'm an expert in. Testing for steroids in post-mortem cases is fairly rare. In my 16 or 17 years of being a post-mortem forensic toxicologist and having dealt with 50, 60, 70,000 cases, I think I've had 5 cases that have involved testing for anabolic steroids. It's just not something that's commonly done in post-mortem work.
Well, let me ask you this. If there were a toxicologist that was a professor at a university and that toxicologist opined that the effects of long-term anabolic steroid use could be evidenced by anatomical changes in the heart arteries or perhaps, physical characteristics of the liver, would you be able to dispute those opinions?
No, I'm not a forensic pathologist. That's outside my area of expertise.
Okay. And a similar question, if a toxicologist who was a professor at the university were to opine that the effects of long-term use of anabolic steroids in the brain could last well beyond the period of time that you could detect the use of anabolic steroids in the urine sample, would you have any reason to disagree with that opinion?
I'm not a neuropathologist or forensic pathologist, so that's outside the area of my expertise.
Very well. Thank you for your time and attention. I don't have any further questions, Doctor. And I would like
Morgan Martin here. I don't have anything further.
I would like it in this record to stipulate that this doctor's affidavit of authenticity is genuine and his record is detached.
Mark, Natasha.
I do have some follow-up questions. Dr. Brower, you provided the affidavit of authenticity just yesterday?
Correct.
And have you talked to any of the parties or the attorneys in this case before today?
None whatsoever.
Cool. Thank you. Now, let me go back to the questions that were asked about the urine sample. If someone were chronically abusing steroids to the point they had road rage, wouldn't you see metabolite levels that survive dilution?
I'm not certain of that. It would depend upon their use history and when they had last used and how long those drugs or metabolites could be detected.
Okay, and the test that you use, the LC-MS/MS, that's a pretty robust test, isn't it, that is even capable of detecting them even in specimens collected days after death?
It is very selective and sensitive methodology.
Right. So even after all the questions that the defense attorneys just asked you, it's still your opinion within a reasonable degree of medical certainty in all the tests that you ran, there were no steroids found in Scott Spivey's system.
Outside of testosterone, that is correct. And I did look at the raw data prior to the deposition here, and I did not detect any trace of steroids that were even below our reporting limit.
Okay, and testosterone is not an indicator of steroid use standing alone, correct?
No, all living individuals produce testosterone.
All right, thank you. Now, let me get back to what you talked about as far as impairment. Now, that chart that Mr. Moss popped up there from some website talked about gross motor impairment. Can you explain to me what gross motor impairment is and how it affects the brain's processing?
It's just really just your ability to, accurately, control your bodily movements, which can affect coordination, grasping at things, moving things, moving your finger to your nose, your gait, your walking, and those types of motor movements.
Right, and even multitasking and even driving, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if a person with a blood alcohol content of 0.13, you would not expect them to be able to drive in traffic in North Myrtle Beach for 9 miles while being chased at speeds of over 100 miles per hour, not hit anyone, and not wreck, would you?
Object to the form of the question. You can answer it, Doctor, but I'm objecting that you can answer the question.
If what you described was accurate, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that he did not get in an accident at that blood concentration. We see people driving for miles and miles without getting into an accident and pulled over with much higher blood alcohol concentrations. You really see everything. Almost anything is possible with regards to driving and impairment. You see people crashing with very low blood alcohol concentrations as well.
Right, but to your point, you said, according to this chart, the BAC that you found using the heart blood indicated that it was 0.13. So on Mr. Moss's chart, that is 0.11 to 0.15. That's drunk. And I think you indicated gross motor impairment and judgment perception were severely impaired. So you wouldn't expect for somebody to be able to drive at that high rate of speed without wrecking, would you?
Object to the form of the question.
It's not unreasonable to me that he did not get in a crash. If everyone at that type of blood alcohol instantly crashed the vehicle when they're driving, then we would have our roads littered with, beat up cars and hospitals full of patients. So no, just because someone's at that blood alcohol does not automatically, indicate that they absolutely must 100% guaranteed to, be involved in an accident. That's just not reasonable.
So, Dr. Brower, going back to the vitreous fluid question, are you familiar with the Journal of Analytical Toxicology?
I am.
And that's one of the premier journals in your own field?
It is.
Okay, and you've not heard of a situation where vitreous fluid is sometimes different than the heart blood fluid?
It is different.
Okay, and in fact, in your specific test, the BAC that you discovered or that you found in the heart blood was actually 130, is that right?
That is correct.
And in the vitreous fluid, which is not susceptible as much to postmortem and degradation, was actually 102.
That is correct.
And so that's a substantial difference, isn't it, 28?
Not really.
Okay, well, you served as in the medical examiner's office for, gosh, a number of years, correct?
Correct, 13.
Okay, and when you worked there, didn't they often review blood alcohol content?
We did on every case.
Okay, and they also reviewed vitreous fluid?
We did, correct.
Okay, did you ever use vitreous fluid as, and you're telling me that the North Carolina medical examiner never converted vitreous fluid to the BAC?
Absolutely never.
Okay, interesting.
That's not something that is done.
Okay, and you've never read any articles published in the Journal of Analytical Toxicology about this subject?
I'm not saying that people won't try to, but it is improper to have a vitreous ethanol and convert that to a blood alcohol, especially for litigation purposes.
Okay, what's the purpose of doing a second test, a vitreous test? Because it's my understanding that was the whole purpose of doing another test from October 10th and then doing a second report on October 12th. What was your purpose in doing that?
The sole purpose of testing vitreous ethanol is, one, if you don't have any blood available, so that you can see if the alcohol has been consumed. But its primary use is as a secondary specimen to confirm the presence of ethanol in the blood. And that would be in cases that we talked about previously, such as blunt force trauma, or cases in which the stomach contents could be ruptured, like blunt force trauma from a crash, or from a fall from a great height, or gunshot wound to the gut, where the gastric contents are ruptured, and you can have contamination of ethanol into those central blood specimens. So if you had, say, blunt force trauma and you detected ethanol in the blood, you may not know if it's, quote, real or not. Did they really consume alcohol, or was it just contamination from the gastric contents? When you test the vitreous humor, which is a protected specimen, because it's encapsulated from the eyeball and not going to be prone to diffusion from ruptured gastric contents, because it's just not possible to happen. It can just confirm that, hey, that ethanol concentration is likely real and not contamination. That's the primary purpose of testing vitreous ethanol.
Okay, and in this case, it was 130 versus 102.
Correct.
Okay. And so in all your testimony, Dr. Brower, would you agree that any information about Scott's actual impairment and what his capabilities are speculative?
It is. When you talk about the effects of alcohol on people, I can testify as to the general effects of alcohol at various concentrations, but you can't say that person absolutely did exhibit those behaviors. It needs to be in conjunction with witness statements and observed behaviors and things like that. I can't talk about anyone's impairment, either or lack of, due solely from a toxicology report. And our accrediting body, sorry, I'm still sick, strongly encourages not to opine on impairment from a toxicology report alone.
All right, Dr. Brower, those are all the questions I have, unless the defense attorneys have anything further for you.
Nothing further from Morgan.
Nothing further for Dr. Brower from me. I do want us to get this stipulation here, may or not may, as to the authenticity of his report that was attached to that day.
Yeah, I've already told you that we stipulate that. I mean, I understand.
Need a break? We keep going?
I think we're ready to keep going, if Your Honor. I do have one.
Anybody out there? Got any break? Keep going? If you can keep going, what about majority? Keep going. All right.
May I practice?
Yeah. tell you why I decided. We got two more witnesses, both about an hour each. The lawyers sometimes get it right and get it wrong about how long. I'm gonna do one more, so we'll work about another hour. We're gonna adjourn today about 5. Just then roughly 5 tomorrow. Is that right, gentlemen? About 5, thereabouts? 5 witnesses tomorrow.
We've got one, assuming they call both defendants, I think there's only 1 or 2 left.
Okay. Well, young Mr. Martin represented these. He thought 4. Tomorrow, I'm postponing 1 tomorrow. It makes 5 by my math.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll go with that.
You're right. They're making different choices.
I did tell the lawyers, so y'all know this, is when they do a deposition like that, I can't say move on and hasten it a little bit, so we get what we get. Now, had it been live, it'd have been a little shorter. All right, Mr. Ball, this is your witness. You call him first.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you finally out of the battle
They won't
box.
let me play.
Okay, call your witness.
Dr. Kenneth Suderstrom.
Sir, you can just come around this way.
And we got that deposition was admitted for purpose of today's hearing that we just saw.
Yes, sir.
You solemnly swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did.
Yes,
All right, Mark, have that for
She's got 2 hands, she needs 5. All right, we're gonna go back, and she's gonna put that we accepted the deposition of the forensic toxicologist for purpose of hearing, and whatever that stipulation is.
Defendant's Exhibit 59.
59. And you just marked some new exhibits, and the witness you just called's name is?
Kenneth Suderstrom.
And I expect you better spell that for her.
It's Soderstrom.
And he's been placed under oath. Now, talk about your exhibits.
I marked 2. The clerk's marked 2, and I have copies for Your Honor. It's a copy of this witness's CV and report. Just thought you may or may not want a reference. Doctor, did you give us your full name already? You did, didn't you?
I gave you my last name. I spelled it.
Okay. And could you tell us where you're employed and what your position is?
I'm a professor of pharmacology at East Carolina University.
In the Brody School of Medicine?
In the Brody School of Medicine, that's right.
Okay. Now, you're not an MD doctor.
I'm not an MD. I teach the MDs and the other health science students.
So you're a PhD doctor, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you've been asked by me to give some opinion in this case, is that right?
That's right.
Now, and I sent you materials that you base that on, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And so the opinions you're going to give, they have nothing to do with ultimate conclusion of fault or liability or immunity. I'm asking you opinions about pharmacology and toxicology, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you've been asked to give any opinion about whether somebody's legally entitled to any status, immunity or whatever, right?
I don't even know what that means.
Okay. Now, you had a written representation with me, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I'd like to show it to you. This one's not marked, but I have disclosed it, Your Honor. I want to refer you to that sentence that's highlighted. Could you read it?
The consultant's services are provided independently of their role as a university faculty. All opinions and assessments will be grounded in objective facts without consideration for favorability of outcomes.
Okay, I want to break that down. First and foremost, your opinions have nothing to do with East Carolina University, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then secondly, what if you put in there this last part about assessments will be grounded in objective facts without consideration for favorability of outcomes? What does that mean?
That means you provided me with evidence. I looked at the evidence, and the conclusions I came to were just based on that evidence and not what I thought you wanted or anybody else. It's what I thought the evidence indicated.
Let's talk a little bit about your credentials. Exhibit 47A is being projected, Your Honor, and is this your CV?
Yes.
Could you narrate for us based on your education experience by referring to the paper copy you have or that one on the screen, whichever you're most comfortable with?
I'm sorry, what would you like me to do?
Well, I want you can confirm that's you.
Oh, that is me, yes.
That's you, okay. And I wanted to draw your attention to the next page with world experience. Now, how long have you been a PhD, doctor?
I got my PhD in 1998, and I started working at the Brody School of Medicine in 2001.
Okay, and what is your concentration of study in your doctoral program?
We'll probably stipulate that he's an expert in pharmacology.
Thank you. That will save us some time.
That'll save some time.
But even with that stipulation, I would like to jump over to the next page.
And since we're going for jury, it's not necessary to explain to the jury. I understand I've had experts in pharmacology present before, so
Very
we're
well.
so qualified.
Very well.
If he's going to read the CV, we take it back.
Okay.
Do you know how many publications you've had, Doctor?
I don't. It's a modest number compared to a lot of people, but it's not insignificant.
Well, if I were to submit to you there's 41 on your CV, does that sound reasonable?
Sounds about right, yeah.
Okay. And for those of us who don't publish papers, that doesn't seem so modest.
Well, it took a long time to do that.
Okay. So, based on your education and training, your teaching and research, do you believe you have specialized knowledge in pharmacology and toxicology and the central nervous system effects that can assist this court in understanding toxicology and
Yes.
behavior-related evidence?
I believe so, yes.
And that's what I've asked you to do. Is that
That's right.
Okay. And you've given some opinions in your written report, right?
I did, yes.
And those opinions, were they grounded in scientific fact?
They were based on the evidence you provided. There wasn't that much evidence. It wasn't really that much, but it all kind of fell together. It's remarkable the way it fell together.
Okay. I want to direct your attention to your report, which is the one in front of you, marked 47B. And you have, is there a paper copy in front of you? I need to hand you one.
Thank you.
So I've handed you 47B. Do you recognize it?
I do.
Is that a copy of your report?
This is a copy of the report I prepared, yes.
Okay. And did you sign it?
I did.
And at the time that you provided this report, that was when you had completed your analysis and research, right?
That's right. It was a little over a year ago.
Okay. For the court, we moved to admit 47A and B as the CV and the doctor's report.
A is the curriculum, B time, Dr. Courtroom. 47B is the report after examining the evidence presented to him by this case.
Okay. Now, you were provided a laboratory analysis report by me, is that right?
That's right, yes.
Okay. Do you recall, can you tell me, reporter, do you recall what that laboratory analysis indicated about Mr. Scott Spivey?
Indicated a few things. The first was testosterone level 4.1, which is, there are no normal limits. Testosterone levels are all over the map, so that wasn't unexpected. There was BAC of 0.13 and caffeine, and I don't recall anything else right now.
Okay. In fact, there was a negative finding in the NMS laboratory.
Okay, sure, yes.
So they have steroids, right?
That's right. So they tested a series of metabolites of abused steroids. And there are many, many abused steroids. And so the way you detect this is you look for the breakdown products in the urine. And that's what the NMS laboratories did. And they did not detect any of the breakdown products.
Doctor, is that when it comes to steroids, does that end the analysis?
It doesn't, and that is because of the way that steroids are taken when they're abused. They're taken in courses. And so a person will take them for a week or two until they experience toxicity, and then they take a break. And
What are some examples of toxicity which might cause someone to take a break?
GI upset, arrhythmias. Those are the two that I remember right now.
Okay. And so if you've got a situation such as this, where you've been asked to look and opine as to whether or not the presence of anabolic steroids were a factor in this case, in this tragedy, what kinds of information would you want to have in addition to the report from NMS Labs?
An interview with the person, that would tell the whole story, I guess. But a history, maybe people that he worked with or worked out with, if he went to the gym, things like that.
That would have been ideal, wouldn't it?
That would be ideal, yes.
We didn't have that in this case, as I explained. So let's take a look at page 3 of the report. And would it be fair to say that the third page of the report narrates what you looked at?
Yes, so it goes through six pieces of evidence that I looked at. Again, really not too much.
Well, can you kind of cite to us what they are?
Let's see, a forensic autopsy, a supplemental report, so this is the NMS Laboratories, bar tab, listing a number of drinks, report prepared by the Horry County Police Department Drug Analysis Laboratory, and so that was analyzing the contents of some capsules that were found in the truck, and that was the first odd thing that came together. So it was odd that there were these abused steroids in that truck, and at first I thought this might be just a red herring. I thought, well, that's just kind of a strange thing. I didn't really think too much of it. Let's see, going further, photo of the black truck, labeled Spivey's truck on Highway 9, and a series of 5 witness statements. Those witness statements were interesting.
They were collected by who?
They were collected by the police there,
Okay.
the Horry County Police, and they were very consistent. That jumped right out at me.
Well, look, with specificity, whose statements did you review, Doctor?
Okay. It was Charles W. Boyd, Terry A. Wright, Lindsay McMorrow, Francis E. McMorrow, and Laze Adrian Ward. Not sure I pronounced that properly.
Let me ask you, do you know any of those people?
I do not.
You know who they are?
No.
You know any? Have you ever been to Conway before?
I have not. It's a nice place.
And so you know anybody in this courtroom besides me?
I do not, and I met you this morning.
Okay. And so you reviewed these witness statements. And tell us, how are witness statements, like in these witness statements, how are they relevant to the undertaking of an analysis by a PhD doctor as yourself and to offering opinion about the use or effect of anabolic steroids?
Well, let's see, we just heard the forensic toxicologist talk about how you wouldn't want to make any behavioral conclusions without behavioral evidence. And this was the behavioral evidence that he was referring to. And so I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, let me see if I got it. The demonstrated behavior as provided by witnesses who observed.
That's right.
Is relevant to the analysis.
So, this dramatic event, terrible event, and the remarkable thing was that that they all were consistent. There wasn't any inconsistencies, and I guess I haven't seen too much of this in the past, but when you have accounts of situations, it seems that there are usually discrepancies. It's like, what really happened? This was, I thought, remarkably consistent, which I think was because it was so terrible and so dramatic. There was an emotional component because we remember things that are emotional. That's how we really remember things well.
Well, what did the police lab report conclude about these pills that you described being in the truck?
That they were the abused anabolic steroid, and I'll use the brand name because it's easy to say, Dianabol. And it was a SEBA product, so a legitimate pharmaceutical. Came out in the early 1960s. It was pulled from the market for liver and cardiac toxicity in the early 1980s. And it has since been available in other countries, Mexico being a prime example. And that might be where it comes into the U.S. from.
When this drug was used in this country, what was it used for?
It was used for things like wasting, cachexia, muscle loss, maybe associated with age, and not getting enough nutrition, osteoporosis. And so, what this type of drug does is it ramps up metabolism, and it will put on muscle mass, and it will make your bones stronger, and essentially it will just rev all sorts of metabolic processes up. And unfortunately, that includes the heart and the liver.
Well, in your research, and I think the lab report called it methandienone, is that right?
Yeah, there's a couple different names for it. This is typical of drugs. You have generic names, you have brand names. Sometimes you have more than one brand name, so it gets very confusing.
Well, from your research, why was the drug taken off the market in the States?
It was taken off the market for cardiac and liver side effects. It was toxic.
What types of side effects?
Liver function, liver toxicity, so your liver doesn't work as well, and cardiac toxicities, including this atherosclerosis. So that's this plaque buildup in coronary arteries.
So earlier, you said when you read the report, and I'm paraphrasing, if I get it wrong, you tell me, but you didn't think a whole lot of these pills being in truck at first.
I didn't at first. I thought, well, he was 33 years old, so young guy. I'm trying to think of people that I've known. I've known people that have abused anabolic steroids, and the people that I know who have abused them didn't use them for very long because of side effects. But kind of fits the profile. Maybe somebody just gave them to him, and he was going to try them for a while. I didn't immediately conclude that there was a serious abuse issue associated with the anabolic steroid, but I did come to the conclusion that if you're going to have a controlled substance, either you're going to sell it or you're going to use it. And I think it was 26 capsules, and so that's more falling into the use rather than sell category.
Do you remember how they were packaged from the report?
They were, if I remember right, it was like a baggie, maybe a Ziploc bag.
Not a prescription bottle?
No.
And if this gentleman that we're here about was born in 1990, he would have been born after this drug was taken off the market.
That's right, yes.
So,
I think it was off the market in 1983.
So what specifically in your research of this case and the records I sent you changed your mind about any relevance to these steroids?
What brought it all together was the autopsy report.
And how did it do that?
There was a note of a 50% coronary artery occlusion. And there was also some evidence of liver toxicity.
And what kind of evidence is that? How was liver toxicity evidence?
It was cholesterol staining of the gallbladder. That was the liver toxicity. The atherosclerosis, the occlusion of the artery, was a plaque buildup, calcification, fibrosis, occluding that artery. And so that's a moderate to severe level, which is remarkably unusual in someone who isn't at least 50.
Is this the portion of, on the screen here, is this the portion of your report where you're referring to that?
Okay, I don't see anything about the
well, let's talk about
autopsy.
Let's talk about this drug use. This is what you're talking about.
Right, yeah, there's the SIVA, it's the SIVA product, Dianabol.
And it was discontinued, right?
That's right.
Okay. So let's jump down in the report to page. All right. I think you're on page 5, the top of your report. Do you see that?
Okay, yes, I'm there.
Could you take a look at the top portion of the 5th page? And up at the top, it has a heading of various
exogenous anabolic steroids.
Yes, sir.
Were negative, that's right.
Okay.
And
you said that the analysis is not in there, right?
that's right. They did not detect any metabolites of this abused anabolic steroid that was found in his truck.
Yet you have these anatomical changes that were revealed in the autopsy report.
Correct. That would be consistent with this drug.
So tell us, if you had long-term use of anabolic steroid drugs, how does it affect the body? Could you just explain?
It will change physiology. So the way a steroid works is it alters gene expression. And what that really means practically is it takes a long time to start working, and after it works, its effects will be sustained for a long time. So these are slowly acting but long-term acting drugs. And the problem with this drug was it did what you wanted it to do in terms of muscle mass and osteoporosis and adrenal insufficiency. I see that I've missed up there. But in addition, it's also causing these cardiac and liver problems. So you're getting good effects. It's a good drug if you need to put on muscle mass fast, but there's a price to be paid. And this is true of all drugs. There's a side effect associated with every drug. This is, a particularly severe one.
So, and you're talking about the effects in those comments about, I guess, the major organs of the body.
That's right.
I want to shift to the effects of the brain.
Right.
So could you narrate it for us?
So, so anabolic steroid has characteristic effects on brain physiology, just like cardiac, just like liver, just like muscle, just like bone. If you're having these physiological effects in other systems, you're going to have effects to some extent in the brain also. And the typical changes in the brain associated with these drugs, and particularly this one, is a hypertrophy of the amygdala, which is kind of part of the brain that is involved in emotional processing. And so you're getting more activity, just speaking kind of generally, in the amygdala, emotional processing, and less in the frontal cortex. And the frontal cortex is associated with executive function, decision making. And there's been research looking at hundreds of patients, and these changes are subtle. It's not like you would see them in one person, maybe. You see them in a population of people. And so this increased, compared to controls of amygdala, decreased frontal cortex, and changes in the connections between them.
Okay, and how might the change in the connections between them manifest themselves in behavior?
You would have an increase in emotional processing and less control of the frontal cortex over that. So the consequence is increased or a decreased trigger for an emotional response, and a decreased ability to filter that response. So you have this part of the brain amygdala saying, there's this terrible thing happening, or you're interpreting something as negative that's really neutral. This is kind of a characteristic problem. And you don't have the executive part of your brain to evaluate it and to say, it's not really that bad, or this is really not a good idea, we should not do this.
So you heard Attorney Hanna ask Dr. Brower about the term, I think, roid rage, or one
Yes.
maybe it was Mr. Martin who asked, one of the attorneys asked.
And I would agree that you might want to avoid that term. What I think might be a valid description of what happened there, and I don't know, and this is one of the things I would like to know, is if it was a road rage, not a roid rage. But I think road rage is kind of more common, and that's a trigger. And so something triggered this. And I think that there was a decreased ability to cope with that trigger.
So there were no metabolites, is that what you said?
There was no metabolites. And so again, the way that these steroids are abused are in courses. You use them until you start noticing bad side effects, then you take a break. And then you come back to it later. And so it's a cyclical sort of thing.
So the effects you described in one's brain, how the side effects of that in the brain, and the processing in the brain, and the ability to reason with your impulses. Is that a fair way to say that?
Yeah.
Is it?
It's not necessarily an acute effect of the drug. So this would be a persistent change that's occurred. And so the behavioral effect would be sustained and long-lasting. And so, just like the increased muscle mass would be sustained during the break, so would all of the other effects, including the behavioral effects.
So the fact that you didn't find that in the presence of a tested urine specimen, that doesn't change?
That didn't bother me, no. That wasn't, that made sense. That and the dilute urine, maybe that had something to do with not detecting it.
Let's switch gears a little bit to alcohol. Now you saw analysis of the blood alcohol content of the heart blood, is that right?
That's right, yes.
And you also saw in that same report that they tested the vitreous fluid from the eye.
Yes.
Right? And you considered both of those things, is that right?
That's right.
In fact, when you were deposed, at that time it'd be fair to say you weren't sure which one of those was the more appropriate or gold standard to use.
I didn't think it mattered. I thought, the evidence here is clear that we've had a significant consumption of alcohol. And it's no more complicated than that. Alcohol is a factor here. And I agree with the forensic toxicologist that there can be, individuals vary greatly in the degree of their effects. And over time, there is a biphasic sort of intoxication that occurs with alcohol. And I don't think the toxicologist mentioned that.
Could you explain it to us?
I don't know if I can explain it, but I can address it. So your initial ascending phase of alcohol intoxication starts with a euphoria and you're feeling good, and your poor judgment manifests fairly early. So that gets started fairly quickly. before your motor coordination really starts. And the evidence for your decision-making problem is you drink 2 beers, and that makes you think that you need 2 more beers. And you know before you had your first beer that I'm not going to drink more than 2 beers, kind of what the forensic toxicologist said. I'm not going to get behind the wheel, and then you find yourself behind the wheel. Not a good idea. You're just not making good decisions very early in this ascending course. And then the euphoria goes away, and a depressive sort of stage comes in. And it's not fun anymore. If you go really high, then you get this gross motor incoordination where you can't walk straight, and maybe you can't even stand up straight. So that would be at a really high level, but you have the decision-making problems. So you peak and you come back down, and so you get it kind of on both sides, but you don't get the euphoria coming back down. You just have, at that point, the toxic metabolites are taking over, and it just doesn't feel good. It's not fun during that stage. Your motor capabilities may come back. There are things that we learn. Driving is an example. Tying your shoes. I tied my shoes this morning and I don't remember doing it. It's a motor program that's ingrained. It's fairly low level after doing it so many times. Driving, we can carry on a conversation on the phone. We can do a lot of things like that, and those types of program behaviors seem to be less susceptible to ethanol intoxication. Fine motor skills, learning something, sensory motor learning, that's gone.
So every individual is different, is that fair to say?
Every individual is different, that's true, and depending on experience. And so there are people who can consume heroic amounts of alcohol who are tolerant to it. These are people who have alcoholism.
In that light, someone who consumed alcohol on a regular basis, who may have more tolerance for it, would they perhaps demonstrate cognitive defects in terms of reasoning or judgment and not have motor control issues?
Yes, I would agree that that's possible. These are different systems, and they have different sensitivity to the alcohol. So different parts of the brain respond differently, and it's hard to predict. Alcohol is a very complex drug.
Okay. Well, what kinds of behavior, you're looking at your report, what kinds of behavior would the witnesses' statements in review contribute to your opinions?
The witnesses described.
I believe you're on page 6 of your report, Doctor. Okay. You're welcome, if you recall, you're welcome to recite it, but if you'd like to refer to the report, I want you to have it.
Well, they all consistently described, what I would characterize as a road, not a roid, but a road rage incident.
Okay.
Some conflict between drivers that got started, I don't know where, that's not here, but it was, a tragic event, clearly. And there was bad decision-making, clearly.
Okay. What neural systems are affected in it, or what neural systems come into play in the decision-making about this?
So, the aggressive, the unreasonable, the very violent parts of the brain are this amygdala. And again, you have frontal cortex that usually, thank goodness, most of us have control over that. We may have the urge, and that's coming from these amygdala sort of brain regions, but we can control it, and there was a loss of that control.
Okay. And does alcohol specifically affect these two portions of the
It will
brain?
do that. It's consistent with alcohol, and it's consistent with long-term effects of anabolic steroid abuse.
Okay. Doctor, from your perspective as a pharmacologist, and you're both a pharmacologist and a toxicologist, is that right?
I would say so. I would say all pharmacologists are also toxicologists.
Okay. So from your perspective as a pharmacologist, does significant intoxication and likely steroid-associated behavior increase the probability of sudden, irrational, and violent actions?
I think we can be confident that it contributed, yes. That both of those things, the alcohol and the steroids, contributed to this.
Is that consistent with a situation where a person might escalate to using lethal force quickly or unpredictably?
I think it would reduce the chance that you were going to decide and understand and realize that this is a bad decision. It would decrease the probability that you would catch yourself and just not do it. Okay, we've got to tone this down now.
Well, with those substance-related effects, is it cerebral cortex?
Frontal cortex?
The frontal cortex. If it's not working as it's supposed to, would that, how would a person who encountered someone who was experiencing this know that?
You couldn't talk sense into them and do that sort of thing. It's like you got to calm down. You got to calm down, and I think we probably all have encountered somebody that we couldn't just calm down. Somebody just couldn't calm down.
Okay, but if you weren't communicating with them and you were just seeing them and seeing their conduct, how would somebody who experienced an individual like that with those drug-related characteristics, how would somebody interpret?
In a situation like this?
Yes, sir.
It would be, somebody who was agitated and angry, and I would say, agitated is.
Well, if the decedent in this case, Mr. Spivey, is intoxicated and exhibiting aggressive and impulsive conduct, does it increase the risk that brandishing or discharging a weapon could occur without any warning?
I would say yes, but I would qualify it as it would increase the risk of that behavior being triggered and then not avoided. It's like you have an urge to do this, and then you realize not a good idea. You would have your reason take over and avoid that.
Could I direct you to page 7 of your report, Doctor? You have a section called Overall Conclusions, and I'd like you to walk us through that, if you would.
Okay. So I guess I'll just read it.
You could read a sentence at a time and explain it, or however you feel.
I write better than I talk, so I should just read what I've written here. Cardiovascular and hepatic abnormalities.
You can read a lot faster than she likes to listen. She's
I'm
taking
sorry.
every sentence that you just go slow.
Okay. The cardiovascular and hepatic abnormalities noted during the autopsy are both, number one, rare in the population representative of the decedent. Conservative estimate is less than 5%, and that 5% is people who have cardiac problems. Less than 5% have a stenosis that is that great.
And you've actually cited some authorities for
Yes,
this, right?
I cited the papers. I thought it was an odd thing seeing it on the autopsy. That just doesn't sound right in a young man. And then looking into it, it's like that was the pieces falling together.
And the authority you cite for it is attached to your report is, I think, footnote 7 and 8, is that right?
Yeah, I cited all of the literature that I got this from, and I cited good papers.
And now, the fact that the decedent may or may not have had a family history of coronary heart disease, does that in any way change your opinion?
That factors in, and
Can you tell us how?
That would increase the probability that this problem would be manifest. And so a statistic I read was that about 15% of people who chronically abuse anabolic steroids will have this type of problem with a cardiac plaque forming, stenosis forming.
So not everybody would have
Not
it.
everybody gets it, even though they're abusing anabolic steroids. This is a particularly bad anabolic steroid for that. But I would say that 15% that do have the problem are probably those who have the family history. They're going to be more likely to...
You mentioned earlier that it accelerated metabolism, is that right?
I think of it as these drugs as aging, premature aging. They move everything up. Time accelerates.
Okay.
The heart's getting older, brain's getting older, old cranky brain, that sort of thing.
I interrupted you. Please proceed with your overall conclusions. Explain the consequences determined.
Okay. So number 2, a well-established toxicity following anabolic steroid abuse, particularly that of meth and androstenedione alone. I should have just said dianabol. Co-occurrence of rare conditions, cardiac and hepatic abnormalities, and steroid abuse make it more than likely that they were related.
You cited 4 authorities for that proposition, didn't you?
Yes.
And your cited authorities are listed in your...
They are.
Okay. Please proceed.
Okay. This type of steroid abuse is also well established to contribute to persistent changes that interfere with normal CNS function, particularly in brain regions controlling emotional responses, impulse control, and decision making.
And is that exactly what you were talking about earlier when you talked about different regions of the brain?
This is what I was talking about, yes. Probably not very well, but that's what I was trying to communicate.
And indeed there's a cited authority for that
Yes.
conclusion as well, is that right?
Yes.
Please proceed.
From this, it is reasonable to conclude that the otherwise rare, irrational, and violent behaviors reported by multiple witnesses were made more likely by steroid abuse-related decreased ability to control emotions and to make reasonable decisions.
Okay. Now that opinion, is that made in what we call a reasonable degree of scientific certainty based on your experience and these learned treatises?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Please proceed.
Loss of emotional control and poor decision making are also well established to follow from acute alcohol intoxication. That was also a clear factor in this case, as indicated by blood tests and supported by an extensive bar tab.
Now the bar tab that you saw had it was pretty high bar tab.
I remember a lot of there were Miller Lights and Fireballs. Not that I know what that is.
So we don't know how many he drank. That'd be fair to say from the bar tab.
He did not necessarily consume all of what he paid for.
Based on his blood alcohol content, he consumed some.
Oh, I would agree with that. Yes.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay. Combined effects of steroid abuse and alcohol intoxication more likely than not contributed, perhaps synergistically so, to the result in lack of behavioral inhibition and expression of the extremely aggressive and violent behaviors described by several witnesses.
So is it the behavior, is it the demonstrated behavior that the witnesses related, is that as important as the anatomical findings to this conclusion?
I think it all ties together. It's all equally important. Again, if it was just if it was just the steroids found in the truck and not any artery occlusion, I wouldn't think that much of it. If there was no witness reports of violent behavior, there would be no issue at all.
Conversely, if there was arterial sclerosis and no steroids, you wouldn't link these.
Yeah, that would just be really odd. That would be a very unlucky 33-year-old that is remarkably rare.
Okay. So this last opinion, the combined effect of steroid abuse, in that paragraph you read, is that an opinion that you offer within a reasonable degree of scientific certainty in your field of pharmacology?
Yes.
Doctor, I want to shift gears a little bit with you. Do you recall when you were deposed by Attorney Hannah, she kind of get you out of left field with some questions about other drugs that you might use and the effects?
Yes.
Did you have any idea what she was asking those questions?
There was some questions about lithium and an antipsychotic drug and benzodiazepines, and I didn't know why, and it's just kind of some interesting questions, especially about lithium.
You know what we call that? The lawyer hires an expert witness, and then the expert witness is in a deposition, and the lawyer on the other side starts asking these questions about their side of the case. We call that, at least I call that, hijacking the expert. It had nothing to do with anything you reviewed, did it?
No, I really had no idea where that was coming from.
And you hadn't reviewed anything about my clients?
No, just those 6 items, very limited amount of information.
I want to talk to you about the questions you got from Attorney Hannah about lithium. Okay? Have you seen this bottle that I've given you?
Yes.
Before? You've seen it before,
Yes,
right?
yes. So this is
I sent you a picture of it.
right, a supplement that
Tell us what it is.
it's a dietary supplement, lithium orotate, and so this is something that you can get maybe at your drugstore, maybe at a vitamin store or GNC if they still have those.
Or Amazon.
Oh yeah, you can order it online, of course. And so this is a form of lithium, and the scuttlebutt, I guess I'll use that term, is that this is going to help decrease anxiety and make you feel better. And there's lots of supplements that make those types of claims. This is not an FDA-approved drug.
Is it a dangerous drug?
Pardon me?
Is it a dangerous drug?
I wouldn't say it's a dangerous drug, not at this dosage.
Well, let's talk.
Actually, you could consume this entire bottle and it wouldn't be up to an antipsychotic dose.
Well, I think you gave me a figure of what that dose, how that dosage in that. What is the dosage in those pills?
These are 5 milligram lithium. I don't know if they're capsules or tablets. I haven't looked at them.
If someone had a therapeutic dose of lithium on the lowest end, what would the lowest end lithium dosage be at the therapeutic level?
Low end for treatment of bipolar is about 1,000 milligrams a day.
And that's 200 of those pills.
That's right.
Would equal 1 lithium, the minimum lithium dose for somebody who had a bipolar disorder. Now, you don't know anything about my client's medical concerns, right? And you didn't know why you were getting these questions.
No.
But is this particular lithium factor in any way, if I submit to you, because you don't know, that if my client were taking it, would it have anything to do with an impulsive reaction by my client?
I wouldn't know. I think this is, and I might be kind of flip here, but this is a placebo, and placebo is very effective drug, remarkably effective, especially in humans. And so placebo is a sugar pill. And if you think it's going to do something, our brains have a way of making things happen that we believe are going to happen. And so I think that these types of drugs fall into that category.
Would a person who had a well-balanced diet benefit from the diet as much as that supplement?
Diet is way more important.
Very good. So if that's the lithium you were being asked about, Do you see how it can be related to this case in any way?
I really don't. And so, of course, I was thinking of lithium citrate is the salt form that's given for bipolar at a much higher dose, and that's a very toxic drug, and that's a serious drug, and a very effective drug. We're lucky to have it.
But nothing that you reviewed had anything to do with lithium, did it?
No.
And so you had no idea why you were asking the question?
I did not, yeah. That took me from the side, and that and the benzodiazepine and the antipsychotic, and I was thinking, why am I being asked about an antipsychotic drug?
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Do you recall after that I sent you a clinical synopsis from Dr. Hannah Cloak?
Yes.
And it referred to some of these other drugs.
It did, so all of them were there. And so then it made sense.
And how did it make sense?
It made sense that the person that you're representing was taking these drugs, this as a supplement, the other drugs as anxiety treatment.
And did you notice anything about the dosage levels?
Fairly low doses, and so a antipsychotic drug is a very good sedative across the board.
The sleep aid?
It's a sleep aid, that's right, at low dose.
Okay. Your indulgence? Doctor, I'm not going to ask you any questions at this time. In addition, the court may have some, or these attorneys may have some, and I may as response to theirs.
Mr. Martin, anything?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Very well. Mr. Tinsley? I'm sorry. Miss Hannah?
Dr. Soderstrom, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You and I had the pleasure of meeting when I took your deposition by Zoom about 6 months ago. Is that right?
I remember, yes.
Okay, and I believe you told me at that time this is the first time you've ever been an expert witness.
That's
that
correct,
right?
yes.
So the first time in a courtroom.
That's correct. Yeah, this is the first time I've been in a courtroom. That's absolutely correct.
And I believe you know Mr. Moss. Maybe you teach his
I met him
daughter.
this morning. He called the chair of my department looking for somebody to explain the NMS Labs report. And I'm the guy to do that sort of thing in our department. And so he was referred to me.
Okay, and you're not a medical doctor, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and you would agree with me that a pathologist that actually did the autopsy of Scott Spivey would certainly be more qualified than you to render an opinion about whether the heart had any impact as a result of chronic steroid abuse, right?
Well, maybe. If somebody is going to claim that a 50% occlusion of the coronary artery isn't related to steroid abuse, I would have to disagree with that.
Okay, but she didn't render that opinion like you
Right.
did, correct? Okay. And you've never performed a forensic toxicology.
That's true.
Okay, and your research, I believe, I saw that big list of things that you wrote about. And isn't it true, Dr. Soderstrom, that most of your research is on songbirds and I believe THC effects on brain development?
Right. So,
Okay. But it's not human forensic pathology, right?
Well, it's, of course, we're trying to understand humans, and the reason we use birds, it sounds crazy, but they learn how to sing when they're young, like we learn how to talk when we're young. And so my research is really focused on development and how the brain changes during development.
But it's not about steroid abuse, is it?
Well, I've done some steroid research.
You have, I believe, in your deposition, you told me most of your research came from internet forums, is that right?
Yeah, so, well, in terms of figuring out how this drug is typically abused. So that's, I think, how you find out how to use, abuse steroids. You talk to the guys at the gym, and there are these internet forums, and it's remarkable the amount of information you can get from that source.
Remarkable. I think you said that earlier. In fact, I think you said you looked at little evidence, but it was remarkable how it all fell together.
Well, then I was talking about, how the steroid was found in the truck. Didn't think much of it until seeing, now we have a autopsy that shows a coronary artery occlusion and liver toxicity.
I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that.
So it all kind of came together. That's what I was talking about there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, you've also never clinically treated a patient for steroid abuse, never personally assessed a person at Boyd's age, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you've never assessed a person who is being chased at 113 miles an hour by somebody with guns out, have you?
I have not.
First time. Okay.
Well, I would say that I still haven't.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Dr. Soderstrom, isn't it true that you've been hired by this defense team over here by Mr. Moss, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have an agreement.
So everything you've reviewed in this case has been solely based on what Mr. Moss gave you?
That is correct.
You didn't get anything from the plaintiff's side, did you?
That's absolutely correct.
Haven't received anything from me or Mr. Tinsley, right?
Nope.
You haven't talked to his mama, his daddy, his sister, nobody in his family to find out his medical history, have you?
Nope. I have. There are, a lot of things I don't know about in this case.
That's right. And in fact, you never even asked for these records, and you don't know anything about Scott Spivey's medical history, do you?
I have no idea.
But you've come to a conclusion based on some things you saw in a report about his heart that he's a chronic steroid abuser.
That's right.
Okay, got it. So let me just keep going. You've never seen his medication list, any medications, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. And I believe you even admitted to me that you have never seen a picture of Scott Spivey's autopsy photos, correct?
That's correct.
And you never even seen a picture of his family photo album to see that he doesn't even look like a steroid abuser at any time, right?
Well, I don't know what a steroid abuser would look like.
Well, actually you do, because in that deposition you also told me that you would expect a steroid abuser to be big and muscular and have a large overture in his shoulders, right?
If I were to, predict, and this would be a risky prediction, I would say this is probably somebody that works out at the gym and is interested in physical fitness and appearance. That would fit. That would, why would somebody abuse steroids? That's why somebody would abuse steroids.
So you would conclude if somebody that doesn't look like they've gone to the gym would not be a steroid abuser, right?
I would say that that's probably, that reduces the probability.
Very good. You also were never provided, I know that you were provided with like 5 witness statements, right?
Was it 5 or 6? It was one of those 2.
But you weren't provided with deposition testimony of either Mr. Boyd or Mr. Williams, were you?
I was not.
Okay, so I assume you weren't provided with any of the secret recorded conversations that Mr. Boyd made on his phone, right?
No.
And the only witness statement you reviewed, the only evidence you reviewed is what Mr. Moss hand-selected to give to you to review to come to this opinion.
That's right.
Now, let's talk about those pills in the truck. Isn't it true, Dr. Soderstrom, that your entire opinion is assuming that those pills that were found in that truck belong to Scott Spivey?
Yes.
And isn't it also true that you don't know if Scott Spivey possessed those pills or if somebody put them there in his truck, do you?
I don't know, but I think the probability is it's likely that they were his and that he put them in the truck. I would say that's true.
Did you know that Weldon Boyd, the man that shot Scott Spivey, went up to Scott Spivey's truck unsupervised at least 2 times before the police got there?
I had no idea about that.
Were you aware that Officer Vescovi, one of the first officers on the scene, showed Weldon Boyd and Kenneth Williams a note that said, "Act like a victim" in front of the camera?
I had no idea about that. I think you asked me that question during my deposition.
And you're aware that then you know that Officer Vescovi got terminated.
I didn't know about that, no.
Okay. So if it were later determined that those pills found in Scott Spivey's truck didn't belong to him because he wasn't a user, then that would totally change your opinion, wouldn't it?
Well, I just can't imagine why somebody would do that, because they would have to know that he had this coronary artery disease. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. Because if it was just the steroid in there again, that it would be an odd thing, but it wouldn't be one odd thing after another odd thing after another odd thing. That, together.
We're going to get to that. Now, let's talk about no steroids found in Mr. Spivey's system. So you understand that the toxicology testing was done, and they did a urine test, and they ran it through, I think the toxicologist said about 30 tests, 27, 30 tests.
They do one test, and they are looking for 30 different metabolites of various anabolic steroids.
And there was nothing found, nothing about anabolic steroids, correct?
And that, that doesn't bother me in terms of the other evidence for long-term abuse.
Well, wouldn't you expect somebody riding around with a big old pile of steroid pills, they would be taking them?
Yeah, and probably a couple weeks prior.
But there was nothing found in Scott's system, was there?
There was, well, and the urine was dilute. I think there's clear evidence for steroid abuse, steroids are abused cyclically, and the lack of chronic exposure doesn't indicate a lack of abuse.
Well, let's talk about what you just said about the heart, okay? I believe your entire opinion relates entirely on your reading of the autopsy report, right?
That's right.
Okay, and I think you're blocking it up to like 3 things, because he had coronary artery disease, liver abnormalities, and gallbladder staining. You think that's why he was a chronic steroid abuser?
Those are very characteristic side effects of the drug that was found in his truck.
Okay, but you never looked at his past medical records to see if there's some other explanation other than that conclusion.
That's correct.
Could be metabolic syndrome, right? That could explain it, couldn't it?
I would say that it would take longer to form that level of blockage.
Okay, what about poor lifestyle and poor diet? That could cause of those 3 things that you just mentioned.
That would speed things along.
Right. And most importantly, genetic predisposition could explain all 3 of those things that you just relied on to form this opinion.
It would speed things along. But in a 33-year-old, it's extremely rare to have that level of coronary artery blockage.
I believe you called it unlucky earlier, correct?
Right.
And would it surprise you to know that Scott has a family history of heart attacks, early heart attacks, heart stents, and a documented family history of high cholesterol and even kidney disease?
No, that wouldn't surprise me.
Right, because that's a better explanation than that this man was a chronic steroid abuser, right?
So, keep in mind that not every chronic steroid abuser gets coronary artery occlusion. About 15% do. And, my thinking would be it's that 15% that have these family backgrounds and are more likely to have the issue become a problem.
Okay, you also relied on a VAC of 0.13.
Yes.
Okay, and that was drawn from the heart almost 60 hours after Scott died. Correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and then you also noticed that the samples were taken more than 3 days later, right?
3 days later. Did I see it about 3 days later? I knew that there was a time difference, but looking into, like what the toxicologist said, that's not uncommon that there would be a lag in between the sampling and the testing.
Okay. Dr. Soderstrom, going back to your opinion on behavior, you said you only looked at 5 witness statements, right?
That's right.
You weren't given Frank McMurray's deposition or Blaze Ward or anybody else's, correct?
Deposition.
Yes, sir.
So that was different than their witness statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, I only saw the witness statement, I guess.
So you really don't have a lot of evidence, and I think your own words where you looked at little evidence, right?
That's true.
Okay. So your opinion is that the behavior described in those witness statements was consistent with road rage?
I would say road rage.
Road rage or road rage?
I would say road rage. And I would say that the behavioral problems there were made more likely by alcohol for sure, and probably synergistic with persistent changes in behavior due to steroid use.
And I believe you admitted that you were not aware that this is a 113 mile per hour chase, correct?
That's true. I didn't know about that.
So when you rendered this opinion, you did not consider the psychological impact of Scott Spivey being chased, did you?
No, I did not.
So you didn't consider that maybe what you thought you were thinking or seeing was really actions of Scott Spivey that were driven by panic, or maybe even a fight or flight response?
I would say what happened was consistent with that type of fight or flight sort of situation.
And you would agree with me that if someone's trying to flee and going that fast and can't get away, that they may feel trapped, right?
I would say that might be true, yeah.
Okay, so the same behavior that you're attributing to Scott Spivey could equally be explained by normal human fear, perhaps somebody that is being chased and was even terrified, right?
I suppose.
Yes?
Yeah.
Now, I think I mentioned this before, but you were never provided with recordings that Weldon Boyd made himself, that were made on his phone after the Spivey shooting.
That's right.
So were you aware that in one of those recordings, Boyd stated, when referring to shooting Scott Spivey, "I fucking loved it and I had a blast"?
Didn't have any of that sort of thing. I'm unaware of that.
Right. Because you weren't given these, right?
I was not given anything to that effect at all.
And were you aware that Boyd told his own grandmother that he was back in his element when referring to shooting Scott Spivey?
I don't know anything about that.
So the person who made these statements, Mr. Boyd, was expressing excitement and
I'm not
joy.
object to discontinuing my questions because the witnesses definitely testified what he relied on, what he was asked to do. And here we are again. I'm Jack, I'm expert to talk about my client.
I think it's outside scope of expertise as well, so let's move on.
Certainly.
You've made a very nice cross-examination.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Mr. Moss asked you about some questions we talked about the medications that Mr. Boyd was on, correct?
Right.
Okay, and those medications, I believe you testified about what happens when someone's taking Seroquel, Zoloft, and Klonopin inconsistently or irregularly. Tell us what happens.
Well, if they're given for antipsychosis issues, and my understanding now, I've gotten a little bit more information since when you were asking me these questions before, the dosages were lower. So, what was being treated is not schizophrenia, it's anxiety. And so the antipsychotic is being given at a lower dose as a sedative.
Okay, and isn't it true when you're taking these antipsychotic medications, I believe you told me it can affect emotional regulation, impulse control, and risk assessment capabilities?
I think, as I recall, you were asking me what would happen if somebody was taking these drugs and abruptly discontinued them. And, what I implied there was these were drugs being used to treat a psychosis and at a high dose. And if you are being treated for schizophrenia, you don't want to stop your drugs abruptly. because all those bad things that you mentioned may happen.
And you also confirmed that inconsistent use of these antipsychotic drugs, especially benzodiazepines like Klonopin, can lead to, I believe your words were, you agreed with me, unpredictable behavioral states, even altered states of consciousness.
With a benzodiazepine is going to be a CNS depressant. If you stop taking a benzodiazepine that you've been taking for a long time, you'll have a rebound. And so why would you take a benzodiazepine for a long time? If you were psychotic or had anxiety to the point that you were having behavioral trouble, and so you knock that, that drug would just decrease CNS activity. You'd be putting the person kind of to sleep. When you would, if you were to completely stop that quickly, you go back into maybe a rebound phase of whatever problem it was that you were giving the drug to alleviate to begin with.
Okay, and that would be evident in somebody with a history of anger issues and anger management issues.
Well, so usually a benzodiazepine is given for anxiety, and it's not given for regular use. If you're given a benzodiazepine for regular use, it's somebody that needs to be knocked down. So usually the way a benzodiazepine is given is as you need it. If you're having an episode of anxiety, you take it. Or if you couldn't stop thinking about things and couldn't get any sleep, you might take it. So it's more a PRN, or as needed sort of medication.
Okay. Let's move on to the lithium that Mr. Moss asked you about, and if I may approach her.
Sure.
So this lithium right here, this is just stuff, it's a dietary supplement,
That's right? Yes.
Okay, and he asked you a lot of questions about if Mr. Boyd were taking that over-the-counter dietary supplement. But I want to ask you about prescription lithium. Okay. You're a pharmacologist, you teach this, right?
Yep.
So over-the-counter lithium, those dietary supplements that Mr. Moss was asking you about, that doesn't require blood work to be prescribed for that, correct?
That's right, and that's...
And so let me show you some text messages from June 2023 from Weldon Boyd, where he indicates that I am on the way to the lab in Murdaugh now to get blood work for lithium. And got blood work done today, so lithium starts soon. Let me show those to you.
All right. Yeah, that would be consistent with lithium for the treatment of a bipolar type of issue.
And if they're prescribed that for this bipolar, that would be the reason he's getting blood work for lithium, correct?
Objection, the doctor has no knowledge of that. He's saying no, he has no knowledge of that.
If you know, go ahead and answer. If somebody is being treated with lithium at a high dose, it's very important to get blood work done because it's a narrow therapeutic window drug. It is a very toxic drug, and you can overdo it really easily. And so you have to kind of titrate the dosage of lithium, and that's why you get blood work done when you're starting it.
So no question, those text messages where you see that Mr. Boyd is getting tested for lithium is definitely not that dietary supplement, correct?
I don't know. It suggests that it wasn't this lithium that...
Correct.
But maybe did he... I don't, Did he overdose on this? I can't imagine even overdosing on it. You'd have to take the whole bottle.
So, Dr. Sotomayor, So to Sean, I apologize. You were not given Mr. Boyd's prescription records or medical records, right?
That's right.
So you cannot tell this court, based on the one-sided materials that you were given, that the opinion that you described for Scott Spivey doesn't apply equally or more to Weldon Boyd.
Yeah, I don't know anything about any other person than the person that was in the autopsy.
Just one moment. I beg the court's indulgence, Your Honor. Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Got some read your record, Your Honor? Doctor?
Yes.
Do you know how long the effects of anabolic steroids last in one's brain after they stop taking them? Was it days or weeks?
Yep, even longer.
How long?
Persistent, years.
So this disconnect, if you will, between these two regions of the brain, that can, where your frontal region is not inhibiting impulses and the other regions, can last for years?
That can be a long time, yeah.
Okay. Now, this demonstrated conduct that we talked about, Attorney Hannah talked about driving at 113 miles an hour. And she asked if that's consistent with fight or flight. Do you know anything about this case, do you?
I know very little.
You don't know if there was any reason that this gentleman was cornered for you?
I suspect there was a trigger, and I've always kind of wondered about this trigger. I don't know what started it.
You have no idea, do you?
I have no idea.
And so you have no idea whether or not fight or flight could even be in play here, do you?
I don't know.
And this driving of less than 113 miles an hour, you have no idea why he was driving that fast, do you?
I don't. You know, all I have are the witness statements that are consistent, and you know, based on those statements, you know, there was an aggressor, and that was the person in the black truck.
So, and Ms. Hannah deposed you, right, by Zoom, and that time you gave her all of your information, right? She had your report, she had your opinion, your CV, she knew how to contact you. She never sent you anything from Mr. Spivey's records.
That's correct.
Please
yes.
review this and address your opinion issue.
I would have dealt with that material had it been provided, yes.
In fact, I provided you some supplemental information from NMS Labs, is that right?
That's correct.
And what, it was a more detailed report, right?
Right.
And with respect to this issue about whether or not this alcohol concentration could have been accelerated or increased post-mortem, did you find anything that was revealing about that?
I did. That was a huge document, but there was a needle in that haystack, and that was, they tested for volatiles. And among those volatiles were...
Could you explain what a volatile is?
A volatile is something that will turn to vapor at fairly low temperature, like ethanol's volatile. And a lot of oils are volatile. And so isopropanol is a alcohol that was detected, and acetone was detected. So these are volatiles, and these volatiles are produced, let's see, how did that work again? Were those detected or not detected?
Let me ask you this way. Do you recall anything in the lab report that made you think that decomposition or accelerated?
So, yeah, you would expect volatiles to be present if it was microorganisms that were increasing the alcohol content, and those volatiles were not detected. I think I have that right now.
Let me show you this document, Doctor. Your Honor, the Honor has this already, as does opposing counsel. I don't want it to be a court exhibit, but I want to show it to the witness. Have you seen this before, Doctor?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a description from a nurse practitioner of treating this person that I believe you're representing for anxiety.
Okay. And could you read with me the next to the last paragraph?
So
the last sentence starts with instead. You see that?
Oh, goodness, my eyes are not that good.
Instead, I've recommended.
Well, no. I see Mr. Boyd has been complying with treatment recommendations. Do you mean before that? In my clinical assessment and treatment of Mr. Boyd?
Next to the last paragraph, I'm looking down in.
So is that this one? That's next to the last, if
see
you
yours?
consider that, sure.
Right down here in this paragraph.
Okay.
I'll refer you to that paragraph.
All right.
So you reviewed this before today, right?
I'm sorry, can you say
You
that one?
reviewed it before today, right?
Yes.
And you reviewed it specifically in conjunction with my question about that dietary supplement. didn't you?
Yes.
So what did the clinician say in this clinical synopsis?
That this was being given as a supplement with the idea that it would help anxiety.
But it says, instead, I have recommended the use of lithium orotate, an over-the-counter nutritional supplement, to help alleviate symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder. Is that what it said?
That's right.
Now, you said it was a placebo.
That's my personal opinion.
But you also said placebos are very effective.
It's remarkably effective, yes.
Is this dietary supplement a therapeutic level of lithium?
No.
You see anything to make you think that my client has a therapeutic level of lithium?
I have not.
You've not been asked for that opinion, have you?
No.
Do you think it's fair for someone to ask you a question about my client's medical condition or record when you haven't talked to my client?
Is it fair? I suppose.
That's kind of an unfair question, because
I will draw it.
it's done the same thing the other way.
I will draw it. All right. Let me show you this document. It's also been produced, Your Honor, but I don't want it to be a court exhibit. You haven't seen this document before, I don't believe.
I have not.
Take a moment and scan it and tell me if you see lithium on it anywhere.
I do not.
And what does it say it is at the top? It's a pharmacy record, isn't it?
Cherry Grove Drug, LLC.
And what period of time is it for?
Let's see. Looks like July 2020 to May of 2025.
Okay. And we're talking about almost 5 years.
Yeah.
No lithium, right?
No.
I think you may have that copy. I recall earlier today a conversation with me when you talked about this kind of conduct and age group you might see it in.
Yes.
We're talking about steroids, right?
Right.
And the effect in the brain.
Yeah.
What do you recall telling me as an example?
Example might be teenager. This is kind of the last period of development where we don't really have this type of executive control, and if somebody's going to have this sort of behavioral problem, it's typically going to be a teenager.
Okay. And we were talking about Mr. Spivey, weren't we? Just demonstrating behavior of driving and excessive speed.
Okay. Okay.
Is that normal in your opinion for a 33-year-old adult?
Right. That I would say is not right. Typically, we've matured and we have control by that time.
Let me go back to this pharmacy record, Doctor. Take a look. These other conditions that Attorney Hannah asked you about, that if you had therapeutic dosages of some of these medicines like benzodiazepines or Seroquel, chloroquine, they would require dosages that were consistent with therapeutic treatment, right?
They would, and I don't, off the top of my head, I'd have to look into what the standard dosages were, and I don't know, just looking at this, if these fall into that range or not.
Very well. But you don't know that they do either.
That's true.
Okay. Thank you, Doc. Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor. I'd ask that this witness be excused if there are more for you.
Very well. Doctor, thank you for coming. Safe travels back to Greenville.
Thank you.
Your Honor, just one housekeeping matter. I have 2 exhibits that I did not mark. If I may mark those now.
Sure. Mark those. Does he have them?
I think so.
Yeah. 2 documents she gave you is what she's wanting to make sure she has.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right.
One more thing.
I'd like to mark the exhibit as well. We decided we do want to put this in court.
Okay. For a minute, that's it. The pharmaceutical record?
Well, no, it's not.
Clinical synopsis. Very
I'd
well.
like to publish it. I don't know the number. I'll have to.
Judge?
He's going to introduce clinical synopsis and evidence, which y'all exchanged because we've talked about it in pre-trial conferences.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Sure. All right, while he gets that mark for his number, tell me what your last issue is.
You had previously entered an order related to Hannah Clock's records. They just opened the door, they introduced the records, and so I think at least we're entitled to look at them at this point in time, based on your order.
No, I haven't opened the door for him. This gentleman's opened the door for him. Ms. Hannah's opened the door for him by trying to hijack an expert. I asked him specifically about the lithium vortex dietary supplement that she tried to hijack from the deposition. This is by design, and it's not proper.
Whether it's proper or not, Judge, he handed the witness the summary of Hannah Clock's medical treatment that those records represent. And so, based on your order, if they put it in issue and he handed those records to that witness and made it an issue in this case, I think we're at least entitled to look at them. I'm not saying we're publishing them. I'm not saying we're doing anything else, but we're at least entitled to know what else is in this gentleman's medical record.
I'd like to publish a statement from this document.
I've read that in a pretrial thing. I don't need to publish it.
Well,
I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to take your motion under advisement. I'm ready to stop today. I'm tired. So we can do that tomorrow. I appreciate y'all wanting to keep pushing on, but I'm out of gas, and so I'm ready to adjourn for the day, and I don't want to do anything other than do that. So I'm not ruling against anybody under advisement, and he may publish it tomorrow if he likes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Let's start at 9 o'clock sharp. We're adjourned.